I am soon gonna introduce Becky, but my name is Mary Jewett. I know probably a lot of you, but I know that we've got some inspectors, not coordinators, in the room, learning how to use the app. So welcome to you, welcome to the program. And I am the coordinator for the state for the CBI program. So I help the DEP with that coordination. So if you ever have any basic questions about the program, that would be me. And you all got the Zoom link from me. So you know my email address. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce Becky Schaffner from the Maine Department of Environmental Protection. She is our tech whiz and developed this app. So she is the expert on the CBI app on Survey 123. And there are some changes from previous years. So I know probably a lot of you in this room have used this before, but this is going to be a good review, and there is going to be some new information. And we are recording this. So if the information comes too quick or you want to go back and review something, I'm going to be sharing that recording. By the end of the week, I'll have that up on our resources page, and I will share the web address with you all for that. But I'm going to let Becky take it from here, and and she'll kind of outline some of the logistics of the meeting and then get started.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming. Just before I start, I wanted to say that I'm going to take some breaks after doing the different parts of the installation process. And if you can hold your questions until then, I can either take questions then, or you can put them in the chat and we'll try to monitor them as we go along. So thanks for that. And now I'm going to share my slides. Okay, so now you should be seeing a PowerPoint slideshow. And just a second. Need to move things around on my screen. Too much going on. Sorry, stand by. Okay. So there's going to be two parts to this training, and the first part will be a short slide presentation on how to install the Survey 123 software or the app and the CBI survey, and they are two separate things, separate but related. The second is a demonstration of how to fill out the app in Survey 123. You should have received instructions from Mary in a recent email, and you can follow along using those. But if you don't have them, let us know and we'll get them to you. Okay, so Survey 123 is a free app. It's created by a company called Esri, and it allows you to use any phone, tablet, or computer to collect virtually any kind of data. It keeps track of the location of the data and allows mapping and online data display. You can enter data directly into the app when you're at the ramps, or you can still use paper forms and later transcribe the data into the app on a computer. If you're doing it in the field, taking the phone with you and entering it in the field, if you're doing that for the first time this year, I recommend using both paper and the app just until you're comfortable with how the app flows and works. You do not need a Wi-Fi or cell connection to use the app on site. The data is stored on the phone, and later when you do have a connection, you can send the data, you submit the data to a cloud database, and from there we at DEP can access the data. And it will also be used to publicly display the data on a dashboard, and I'll hopefully have some time at the end to talk a little bit about the dashboard. The link for it is on this slide. For returning users, and I saw a number of people who were doing this last year, there's a couple notes. Especially if you're using a computer, you might want to update the Survey 123 software to the latest version, which is 3.17 something. If you're using a phone or a tablet, usually app updates are automatic, but you can check by opening up the app and going to the My Survey 123 home screen. In the upper right, there's a menu icon, 3 vertical bars. And if you tap that, it'll pop up this sidebar, and down at the bottom, it'll tell you what the version is. It's not a dire situation if it's earlier than this. It's just that they introduce new features with every update, and sometimes that can be affect how the app works for you. So that's talking about the version for the Survey 123 software. There's also another version, piece of version information, and that's for the CBI survey itself. And I always number that 2023.1, 2023.2. And you'll see that information in a different location. So anyone who used Survey 123 last year, the 2022 version is obsolete. I recommend you delete it from the app altogether. And you can do that from the, if you click on the survey on the My Survey screen, you can also do that from the menu icon in the upper right corner. And I'll demonstrate that later too. So as I mentioned, you can use Survey 123 on either a phone, tablet, or a computer. So I'm going to talk through instructions for both. For the most part, installation is straightforward, but if it isn't, because there's so many different types of phones and operating systems out there, if you're having trouble, feel free to contact me after the training via email or phone, and we can troubleshoot. Everything I'm going to go through here is a one-time process. So after you go through the next few steps, you should be set for the whole season. And I'm going to put in a link in the chat with information on the versions of different computers and operating systems that you need to operate Survey 123, because that can affect whether it works for you or not. Hold on a second. Okay. Okay, so first I'm going to talk about how you install Survey 123 on a phone or a tablet. And it's just like any other app. For Android, you open the Google Play Store. For Apple, you open the App Store. Use the search tool, and searching for Survey 123 should work, or you can search for Survey 123 for ArcGIS. And when that comes up, just tap install or get, whatever the terminology is, and that will download it and install it on your device. So if that is successful and you find the icon, which is a little green square, then you open the icon, open the app. This is what the home screen looks like. And you'll see that it does ask you, to sign in with ArcGIS Online or manage ArcGIS connections. You can ignore that. The survey, you don't need to sign in at all. There is a continue without signing in option at the bottom. So that's what you'll use. Okay, so for those of you on phones, you can go ahead and try doing this now if you haven't already. And stand by. My next slide is going to be about how to install it on a computer. And then we'll get back to how to actually get the CBI survey. Okay, so if you are using a computer and want to install the software, there's a couple of notes about using Survey 123 on computers. Unfortunately, Esri isn't supporting software for Mac computers anymore. It's still working for iPhones and iPads, and I don't see that going away, but Macs, no. However, it is still possible to download and install the last version that was available for Mac, and that is still working as far as I know. So if you're interested in trying that, let me know and I can send the link to get that software. It's also in the PDF version of the slideshow that you received in the email from Mary. Okay, so that said, the steps on this slide work for Windows PCs with running Windows 10. So the quickest way to get the software is either to click on this esri.com link that's in the instructions, or to just Google get survey 123, and it'll take you to this web address. Sort of at the top of that screen, you'll see some different options for getting the app from the various stores, like the Google Play Store and the App Store. Ignore those. I prefer to use the actual installation files. And you'll find those if you scroll a little bit further down the page to where you see download ArcGIS Survey 123, download installation files from Esri. And below the field app section, you'll see the Windows x64 link, and that's what most people will use. So click on that link. That will start the download of the software installation files. So sometimes if after you've downloaded, sometimes you'll see down in the bottom of your browser window, you'll see a link to the software, and you can either double click on that, or if you know where you saved the downloaded files to, you can go to that location on your computer and double click the .exe file that you'll find to start the installation. And as you go through the installation steps, you just follow the instructions on the screen and accept all the default settings that it offers. And I believe once you've finished that installation step, you can choose to make the Survey 123 icon accessible from your start menu on your computer, or for the taskbar, or from the desktop as well. Okay, so that is installation for a computer. Okay, so the phone and tablet users can come back now. I'm going to talk about how to actually get the CBI survey. So there's two ways. The first pertains more to phones and tablets, and that is to use a QR code for the app and the QR code reader on your phone. So most phones these days, the camera app has a built-in QR code reader. So if you turn on the camera app and aim it at this QR code, you don't need to click the shutter or take a picture of it. If the QR code reader is working, you'll usually see a box appear around the QR code and maybe a link pop up, and it'll say something like open in ArcGIS or ArcGIS, something like that. You see that pop up, you click on it, and it will automatically start opening and downloading the survey. You can also get to a QR code reader right in the Survey 123 app. So if you open up Survey 123 and click the continue without signing in button on the first page, you'll come to a page that says My Survey 123 at the top, and then it's blank down at the bottom, or it says you don't have any surveys. Ignore that. Look in the search bar at the top of the screen there. And over on the right side, there's a little QR code icon. So what that does, if you click it, is it opens up your camera and turns on the QR code reader. So it's just basically another way of accessing the QR code reader. It's just nice and built in to the app. Okay. So if you don't have a camera on your phone, or if you're trying to download the CBI survey to a computer, instead of that method, you will use this URL, this link. And this bit.ly means CBI 2023 link is in the written instructions as well. So you can either open those instructions on your computer and click on the embedded link in the document, and that should open a browser window. You can also copy and paste that address into the address window, address box at the top of a browser window. And any browser should work fine: Chrome, Safari, Microsoft Edge, whatever your preference is. The link is case sensitive, so be sure to capitalize main, and CBI is uppercase. Okay, so clicking that link will open a browser window that looks like this. And at the bottom, you'll see a green button that says open the survey. Click that and the CBI app should start downloading and being unpacked onto your computer. And it really shouldn't take longer than a few seconds, maybe 5-10 seconds. And if for some reason nothing happens when you click open the survey, check that pop-ups aren't being blocked by your browser. So you can either turn off a pop-up blocker or try a different browser. And again, if that's not working for you, just contact me directly. So hopefully, either the QR code or this link will work, and that should be all you need to do. If you've tried that and you don't see the survey open after you downloaded it in one of the last steps, then try going back to your home screen on your computer or your phone and finding the Survey 123 icon. Then open it and look for the CBI survey icon within it. And so that will look like this left-hand window here. My Survey 123 at the top, and then you'll see the 2023 Main Courtesy Boat Inspection icon, which is the sticker at the top. Okay, so if you click on that icon, that will open the CBI app home screen. And this has some important information on it. So it's got the version of the CBI survey, which, as I said, is 2023.1, or actually it's a 2023.2 now. I did do an update a few days ago. And it'll tell you that I'm the owner, that it was created on such and such a date, and then the last modification date. At the beginning of the season, this will change frequently. You'll see updates all the time, and that's because I'm adding new inspectors and troubleshooting bugs that pop up as things go along. So I've already had to do that a few times since I first created the app, but I'll talk about updates in a minute. Okay, to get started with actually collecting data in the app, you hit the collect button down here, and that will start the inspection survey for you. Okay, so let's hold there for a second. I have a few other things to cover. You may see other boxes below the collect. One of them for me is sent, and that just indicates that I've sent in 9 inspections, 9 sets of inspections. One issue you might run into when you are first opening up the app is this location inaccessible warning, and that's not critical. All that means is the GPS in your phone or the internal location service in your computer is turned off, and a lot of people do that for security reasons. And again, it's not critical here. All you have to do is click close to ignore that message. If you don't want to turn on the GPS or the location services. The ramp locations are all built into the app and automatically populated, so you don't need to worry about actually collecting your current physical location. If you do want to turn it off, if this box that pops up annoys you, you can turn off or turn on location services. And it's different for every computer and phone. So the easiest thing is to Google GPS or location services and whatever device you're using and learn how to turn it on. Okay, so some support information, my email, which is also in the app itself, for questions about inspections, you can contact Chris or Mary. This is a link to the page that has all the instructions and videos and other information about CBI as a whole and about the app. And Mary said she would be updating that with some of the information from tonight. There's also a link here to the data dashboard again, which is now active. You can get into it now and see it if you have tried in the past few weeks. It's been shut down, but I've got it up and running now. It's still a work in progress, so don't expect perfection. Okay. So I'm stopping sharing, and I can take questions now. If anyone wants to unmute themselves or put a question in the chat, I can try and answer them.
Hey, Becky, this is Michael Capman at Balch Lake.
Mm-hmm.
So I downloaded the survey and everything, and when I click go to my surveys,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get the 3 screens. It goes right to the survey.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. If the first time you download it, it'll open right up. So
Okay.
all you have to do, there's an X mark in the top left, and that's
Okay.
to close the survey.
Okay.
The next time you open survey 123, then you'll see the home screen with a little icon, and that's when you click on it to go to the next page where you begin collecting.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
Perfect.
Sorry, forgot to mention that.
Thank you.
Okay, this is Bill Baxter at Swan Lake, and just wondered how we delete last year's app from the survey 123.
Yeah. Give me a second. Let me show you how to do that. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay. So do you see my survey 123 app?
Yes.
Okay. It's hidden behind something else. I'm trying to move it. Okay, so to delete a survey, you click on the survey icon on the home screen, and then you get to this page with the collect and all the other boxes. There's 3 horizontal lines at the top right. It's a menu. If you click on that, the first option is delete survey.
Well, got it.
Yeah, that's all you need to do.
Simple. Got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else?
Question. This is Norman Baker in Leon, Lake Association of Norway.
Yeah.
Is there any discussion around? I mean, the bow number is probably the most time consuming for data entry. And if there's no plants found, what is the bow number actually used for by the organization?
Chris, are you able to answer that? We had a discussion about this recently.
I'm sorry. What? Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah, the question is, the bow number for the boat is the most time-consuming aspect of data entry.
Gotcha.
And if there's no plants found on the boat, what is the bow number needed for?
Okay. Yeah, I recently talked about this with Sal, and talked about it with the team. And honestly, at this point, what we'd like to be able to do is track not just when plants are found, but also trace just how many lakes these bow numbers are showing up on. And oftentimes, some of the most frequent flyers, so to speak, are toggling back and forth between bass tournaments and just being out recreationally. And I think that there is I think there's some utility in being able to see exactly how often these boats are on the water. And if they are bass fishermen, we're, making the assumption that they are fishing in and amongst the weeds. So just because plants are not found, we still do believe that there may be some utility in being able to track just how much usage these boats are getting on the water.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I guess a follow-up question to that is in terms of optimizing data entry, especially if you're someone that's entering a lot of paper forms after the fact, and it can be very tedious, as you can imagine. The next question would be, is there a way of tweaking ArcGIS 123 to allow you, a lot of times you get boats entering and leaving the same, and you have to basically copy the information all over again. Is there an option of designating of both entering and leaving with one data entry rather than two?
Becky, as far as the front end, I'm not sure if that's something that you can do. I guess my concern would be
because everything's exactly the same except the time they're leaving versus entering. That's all that's different.
Yeah. If we can work out some of the data exporting issues that causes, then that is a possibility. It's something that I've been trying to look into. It just, because when we upload this information into the state's database, every single inspection is a separate record.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to parse out the entering versus the leaving and create a separate record for that, even if it's all associated with one boat.
Yeah.
So it's just a technical challenge that we have to deal with.
I mean, I don't know what the limitations of ArcGIS is. I guess the next question would be, at what point do we hit the limit of what ArcGIS can do? And then we actually bite the bullet and say, okay, we're going to build our own custom application.
Well, that's a little bit more than we can really get into in this.
No, I know. I'm just, I'm a software engineer, so I'm thinking, so that's why I'm bothering you with all these UX questions.
Yeah, no, I understand. And I'm not a developer, I just know how to use the software and how to use the ArcGIS. So the limitation is mostly personnel on our end. So
yeah,
it happens to be the tool that we have available.
Yeah.
Becky,
No,
I'd like to just add one thing. This is Mary. So just the time is not potentially the only difference. Also plants found might be different.
Right.
It would just
But
be
Mary, 99.9% of the time, it's just the time.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to think about the data entry people and how monotonous the data entry can be, and trying to just speed it up. That's all.
Mm-hmm. I know it.
Hi, this is Dirk Oakmeyer. I have a question about the app. I'm not sure if I'm ahead of the game or behind the game. I have a question about the organization on the data collection of page 1. We're from Emden Pond. We're not on the list.
Okay.
So we can't move on to any survey collection without that.
Right.
Correct. When can we expect that to be up so that we can start this?
Just email me and Chris, and we'll get you added, and it won't take long to do that.
All right, great.
Within the next day or two.
All right, thanks.
Yeah.
And early on in the right at the beginning of the meeting chat, Becky did share with me that first link is to the form where you can add inspector names. So if you need, I'm right about that, right, Becky? If we click on that.
Yes. Yeah. Right. So if you have just a few inspector names to add, you can use that link. You can also continue to email me and Chris with lists of names. I get a notification anytime someone enters it into that survey form.
So Ed has a question in the chat. Downloaded the app on iPhone. Surveys requiring a username and password when I select continue without signing in.
Okay, so Ed, if you got to the screen that says My Survey 123 at the top, and this is blank down here on mine, there's a bunch of different apps, but if it's blank and it's asking you to sign in to download a survey, ignore that. This is when you would use that QR code, either by going to it up in the search bar and clicking on the icon and then aiming it at the QR code that's in the instructions. Or you can also use the link that starts with bit.ly and click on that, and that will download the survey. Yeah, you won't be able to access it directly by hitting, trying to sign in on this screen. Any other questions for now?
Barbara has her hand raised.
Oh,
Yeah, Becky, I'm wondering, and you might be going to this next, but I have a question on the first page of the survey, the one that starts with the date and organization. I was messing around with that and noticed for the first time that if I clicked on those three bars in the top right-hand corner, there was a thing that said, set as favorite answers.
yeah, I'll get to that.
And okay, is that new? Because I never saw that before.
It's not. And I'll talk about it. It
Okay.
can be a little tricky, but it can be a time saver. So
That's what I was wondering. Okay, so I'll defer until you get there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? I'll take more questions at the end, but I'll start going through the app. How to use the app now. Okay. So as I said, this is the Survey 123 home screen. You're going to click on the icon to get into the CBI survey home screen. You've got the information up at the top. You've got a variety of buttons down here. Actually, if you just download it for the first time, all you'll see is the collect button. So click that to continue. And so there are, let me say one thing first, though. I'm going to go back to the screen. If you open up the app and it says there's an update available, you do have the option to accept it or not accept it, but I highly recommend accepting it every time. It's not going to mess up your data. Don't do it in the middle of your shift. If you see that before you started your shift, go ahead and update. It'll be fine. Usually it's just because I've had to add new inspector names, but sometimes it's because I had to fix a bug. And that's the case with the most recent version, which I published on yesterday, I guess. So you should all be using version 2023.2 now. And if you're not, please update. If you do have any concerns about updating at a particular time, just let me know. Okay, moving on. So we begin to collect. The survey has 3 pages, and you can tell which page you're on down at the bottom. The first page is the shift information. So you choose the date, and that's just a calendar picker, and it defaults to today. So you may need to reset it to a different day. The organization list, you can either scroll through it and pick your organization, or if you don't feel like scrolling, you can also start typing it in. But you do need to select the radio button to the left of the organization name to actually select it. You can't just type it out in here. It won't remember it. You need to select it. And doing that will populate the list of ramps. So you select your ramp. And what that's doing in the background is it's feeding the coordinates of the ramp to the app and telling it where to place the information on the map. Choosing an organization also populates the inspector name list. So you select that, and it's the same thing. There's a search bar up here. So you can search for your name. If your name's not in the list, then you can just scroll down to the bottom and select Other or New Inspector, and then type in your first name and last name. If your name's on the list, your existing inspector ID will show up here. And this ID is how we identify you in the database and how you'll appear on the dashboard. Your name won't appear on the dashboard, just your inspector ID. So you might want to make note of that so you can look for your information if you need to. Then you select whether you're volunteer or paid. You enter your shift start time in 24-hour time. So if it's 1 p.m., enter 1300. The colon is automatically put in there, so all you need to do is type 1300, for example. And you can enter the number of trailers at the start of the shift. Now, it's not a required question, but so you have the choice whether to enter it or not. Then you'll see my email address again, and this will actually open up your email client and let you email me right then and there. And there's also a link to view the CBI dashboard. Okay, so once you've entered the shift information, here's where that set as favorites comes in handy. I would recommend trying this out, but after you enter up to, say, the volunteer or paid information, then you can go up to the menu icon here and you can say set as favorite answers. So hopefully, you got to test it out, that will remember everything that you saved or entered up to that point. And then the next time you open a new survey, you can go into that menu again. And it doesn't say it right now, but you'll have the option to paste your favorite answers back into the screen. So that will save you a little time. Note that you will need to probably update the shift date, but everything else, same organization, same ramp, same inspector name will be auto-populated into it. Okay, once the shift information is entered, and it's important that you do that first, don't skip to page 2, because information you entered in the shift part is used to populate this next screen. So it's important to enter the shift first. Okay, so page 2 is the inspection screen. And the first question is, did you do any inspections during your shift? And this is set to yes by default. If you didn't do any inspections due to weather or whatever, you can select no. And you'll still see the inspection section, but it's grayed out and you can't actually select anything. And this is one of the changes from last year. I know that people were having issues with losing data sometimes, because it used to be that if you entered inspections and then accidentally hit the no button, it would delete them. So we're trying to avoid that. So now you'll see it, but you can ignore it. So you select no, and then you go down to the bottom and you skip to page 3. On the other hand, if you did actually do some inspections, you click yes. Sometimes it'll say the inspections start here thing, and then there'll be a plus sign below it. It's different on different apps. If you see a plus sign, just click that and this part will expand. So you enter the inspection time, and so there is a checker. So if I accidentally enter, I think, something that's before the shift start time, at some point it will warn me that I did that. It's not going to stop me from entering it, but you should get a warning saying, hey, that time isn't within the bounds of your shift. Do you want to check it? I know sometimes people stay a little bit later or come a little bit early. So in that case, it's fine. Just enter the inspection time, even if it's not within the shift times. But for now, I'm going to say the inspection time is 1400. Is the boat entering or leaving? Is the boat motorized? Okay, so this is also a little bit new. If the boat's not motorized, you can select no. And some sometimes you'll get a group of boats coming in all at the same time, all together as a group. Like if you've got a rental company that comes and brings a bunch of kayaks. And this was a change last year. If it's a group, you should still inspect each boat, obviously. But if no plants are found at all, you can just enter the total number of boats that you inspected. And this is just for non-motorized, remember. And so instead of a separate entry for each boat, this will tally up now. I inspected 5 canoes and add that to the total number of inspections at the end. However, if you do find plants on any boat, of course, please enter that as a separate record. And by default, this number is set to 1. So if you select it's a non-motorized boat and this thing pops up and it's just 1 boat, just leave it alone. It'll be fine. Okay. On the other hand, if you select the boat is motorized, then you'll get a different series of questions. You have to answer where it was registered. If it is motorized but doesn't have registration, then you can enter NR, not registered. And in this list, the New England states are up at the top, down to Connecticut, and then it's alphabetical below that. The bow number, so you don't need to enter the state abbreviation again. All you need is the letters that come after that. And again, if it's motorized but not registered, just put NR in this slot. Indicate whether there's a current sticker. Okay, then you get to the last water body visited question. The vast majority of the boats being inspected, they were in the same lake last time. So if you select that, what it's going to do is populate the last town in the last state with the same information from where you are. Another easy one is if they don't know, or if it's their first time out, or they don't want to answer, then you can just select that. If it was a different lake in Maine that they tell you, or out of state lake, then you get a different series of pop-ups. So here, this is a list basically of all of the sites that have CBI inspection programs, plus all of the more popular lakes within and outside the state in alphabetical order. So it's a long list. And again, you can search. And this is also helpful if it's a tricky spelling, because I always have to look up how to spell Winnipesaukee. So it's just a lot easier to start typing in Win and select it from the list. And sometimes that will populate the last town and the last state for you. Again, these are not required, but it's helpful to have that information if you have it. So you can type in that if you want. Okay. Oh, you also have the option, sorry, this is important. You also have the option of selecting other or new. If you cannot find the lake name in the list, just select other or new. Type it in here. And select the state. Okay. For plants found, obviously, if none were found, then that's it. That's the end of the inspection. No more information is asked for. If you did find a plant, then you select yes. It asks you, was it invasive? And of course, you may or may not know at that point. So you have the option of saying, yes, it was, no, it wasn't, or I don't know. If you select yes, or I don't know, you'll be reminded to send it to someone for identification, either DEP or your organization, someone who knows how to ID the plants. And you'll be asked for that information in this next drop down. If it wasn't, if it was positively ID'd or negatively ID'd, not invasive, then you can just select no. Each inspection is tallied. This is an auto number here. You'll also see the indication 1 of 1 down here. This is the end of the inspection, a single inspection. If you have more boats to inspect, then click this plus sign over on the right, and that will bring you back up to the top of the inspection section. Then you go through all of that again, as many times as you need to until you've entered all of your inspections. So basically, if you have multiple inspections, after entering the first one, don't hit the arrow down here. That'll just take you to the end and the shift end information. Just keep hitting instead this plus sign to keep adding. You have the option to view a list of the inspections. So that'll tell you what time the inspection was done, the bow number if there is one, and whether it was entering or leaving. That's just for reference, so you can go back and kind of see a shorthand of what was done when. Okay. So if you finished entering all your inspections, then you're going on to page 3, and that's the end of the game. So you enter the shift end time. You enter any comments. Okay, so in general, only comment on things that are directly relevant to the data. If there were any problems, like with entering a bow number, if you made a mistake and weren't able to fix it. Information about the weather isn't, your coordinators aren't really reviewing anything about your personnel issues or weather or anything like that. So it's helpful information for them, but they don't see it, unfortunately. So really, this is for helping me to make any corrections that are needed for the data. And if you have problems, just contact me directly too, because I might not see an issue that you've put into the comments right away. I do try to look at them, but I don't always have time to do it every day. This is another new feature, and I think if you were using it before Tuesday or Monday of this week, it wasn't actually working, but now it should be. You can enter your email address, and doing that will send you a confirmation email that the submission was received. And finally, there's an arrow here you can click to see the total. So now we're tallying up the non-motorized, the motorized, and the total boats. So those will be reported separately now on the dashboard. And thank you, Barbara, for reminding me that I had meant to do that last year. Okay, and so again, here you see the CBI form version is 2023.2. So that's it for the form, but there's a few things that you should probably know as far as how to deal with submitting the form. If you filled everything out properly and you press this check mark, oh, I did not. Okay, so I forgot to fill out this second inspection. I clicked the button to add another inspection, but I didn't do anything. If you have an empty inspection like that, you can hit the little trash can icon to the left of the count down at the bottom and delete that inspection. So now I've gone back and I just have the one inspection. All right, so now I'm going to go back to page 3 and try that again. It'll tell me the survey is completed, my device is online, so we're all ready to roll, and I can click send now. Or I can go back and continue the survey if I need to. The third option is to save it in the outbox, and that's not usually something you need to do if you're connected. On the other hand, if you try to submit and it says your device is offline, your only option will be to save it in the outbox. So I'm just going to demonstrate that. So once you've done that, if you sent it in, it will appear in the sent folder here with the ramp, your name, and the date. If it's sitting in the outbox, it gives you the same information. And down at the bottom, once you do have a Wi-Fi signal or you're connected again, then you'll have the option to send the data. So that is something you'll need to remember to do. If you go in, you see that the outbox is active and has contents in it, you need to send that in for it to be uploaded. And the third option here is drafts. So if you're in the middle of entering your data and you need to stop and save it for some reason, you click the X mark in the top left, and then you have the option to save it in the draft. You also can just continue it, or you can close and lose changes. So save it in your drafts, and you can go back into that at any time and start working on it again. So finally, you do have the option, if you know you made a minor error, you can go into your sent folder and select one that's been sent in, and then you can either look at it, just view it, or you can choose to edit and resend it. So if you need to just do something like fix the date or like your shift start time, you can do that and then go continue on to the end and submit that, and it will register. It will just overwrite that information. Just be careful if you're doing that, because you could accidentally overwrite something that you do not want to. You also have the option of just emailing and asking for corrections as well. Okay, let's see. Yeah, okay, I think that's it. So I'm going to stop that here.